back here for another match review stream. It seems like Groundhog Day every single time we play. 3 losses on the bounce now. 2 London derbies in a row against our 2 biggest rivals, Arsenal and Chelsea. And Anfield to come this weekend, Liverpool away. So you've got a match review and we've got a match preview all together on the same stream for you guys today. So obviously we'll do the usual match review, player ratings, 5 takeaways, and then see how the internet did react. And then we will move on to the match preview and predicted lineup for the Liverpool game this weekend. But look, where do we start? The game last night was just absolutely shocking from the first minute all the way till the end. And I'm looking at it, I got on the away end so early yesterday, and when the lineups came out, I'm looking at that Chelsea lineup and I'm like, is this the worst Chelsea lineup that we've ever faced in the Premier League? Or like definitely in our memory in the Premier League? Because I don't remember seeing a worse lineup. An injury-ravaged Chelsea team that are 10th in the league with a makeshift defence. Mikhailo Mudryk, who's been clowned upon for the whole season, 100 million or however much he cost, and he can't hit a barn door. He was actually causing Pedro Porro problems last night. Pedro Porro, I found it really hard to deal with him at times. You know, Emerson Royale at left back found it so hard to deal with. Noni Madueke and Cole Palmer on that side as well. We couldn't lay a glove on them for 90 minutes pretty much. We had a couple of chances, Romero from the header in the corner, a few failed crossing attempts like we did against Arsenal. Terrible, terrible crossing. It was just shocking, absolutely shocking from every facet yesterday. It really was.
Yeah, we just weren't up for it at all, yet again. And the worrying thing is, this is something that's been happening quite regularly now in recent weeks, these kind of performances. And it's not even that, yes, I'm not happy about the fact that whenever Chelsea go forward, we part like the Red Sea and we're so open. And, you know, I think it took them 3 minutes to get a one-on-one through Nick Jackson, which Van de Ven had to block off the line with a goal line clearance. Like, I'm willing to tolerate those kind of things. I'm willing to tolerate Tottenham being open and Tottenham committing risk to the game and conceding chances. What I'm not happy about, what I think is really concerning for a lot of fans at the moment, is how bad we look in possession at the moment. How we're unable to open up Chelsea, how we're unable to test Petrovic, how we're unable to get shots off on goal, how it looks like at the moment, unless we're getting the ball to the wide areas and getting across the face of goal, we got no methods of attack. That's the really, really worrying thing at the moment. It's like we've got one way of attacking a team, and if that fails, we've got no other option. Whenever we go down the centre, we've got no creativity. Everyone was calling for Maddison to come out the team. He came out the team, and we looked absolutely short of ideas in the centre. We had absolutely no composure. We had no one hanging onto the ball in the centre of the pitch. It was absolute shambles. Gilchrist absolutely dominated Son out wide. Everyone's been calling for Son to go back on the left. He goes back on the left. He gets absolutely dominated by an 18-year-old. Brennan Johnson. What's it called? Brennan Johnson was the only one, really, kind of trying to do something, put some crosses across the face of goal, and then he moves him over to the left just as he makes those subs, and he becomes completely ineffective. That's what's really worrying at the moment. It's not the fact that we're open. I think everyone at this stage of the project would have accepted that it's going to be difficult at the moment for Spurs to be this tight-knit defensive unit just at the moment as we're, trying to work our way on the ball. But when we're looking as bad as we are on the ball, and then you take into the account we looked worse or just as bad or worse against Newcastle, just as bad or worse against Fulham. And these are all in recent weeks, and we're not seeming to learn our lesson. The message from Ange isn't coming across, and that is a big worry for me at the moment. Yeah, no, absolutely spot on. And we all like to keep going back to the first 10 games when Spurs were brilliant, but ever since then, we've been regressing all the way throughout the season. And I think we're at a low point right now where we haven't been all season. Even when we had all those injuries, we were playing Ben Davies and Emerson Royale at centre-back. We were playing better than what we are showing right now with Mickey van der Ven and Coutinho Romero. When you're looking at it, he keeps chopping and changing the midfield. He keeps chopping and changing the attack. And it seems to get worse and worse week on week. I mean, what midfielder has stepped up for the cause?
in the last few months, 3-4 months. I can't think of any midfielder that has consistently played well. Every single time he chops and changes it, whoever he picks, it's the same thing every time. Way too open at the back, too slow going forward. The attackers as well, the wingers are not producing like they should be on a consistent basis. We just can't hurt teams. We can't break teams down. And I don't know what the answer is right now in terms of with the personnel that we do have. It seems as though we need a whole heap of changes in this squad. But you're looking at the players that we do have. They're not bad players, though. Like Yves Bissouma, Pape Matar, even Pierre-Emile Højbjerg to a certain extent, we know is probably going to leave at the end of this season. James Maddison, we know is a good player. Brennan Johnson, we've seen it from time to time this season, how he can produce for us. Richarlison went on that purple patch, scored 10 goals a season. Heung-min Son, world-class player, just looking a shadow of his former self. So, I mean, the only players that I can see that are stepping up for the team right now are Mickey van de Ven and Cuti Romero. These are the only two players that I can see putting in consistent performances time and time again. And how many times are we going to sit here and talk about these bloody set pieces? Every single game. Every single game they're killing us. What was going on with that defending from the set pieces yesterday? In the first set piece that we conceded, Chalobah and someone else are completely free at the back post. Completely free in acres of space. Of course they're going to score. Yeah, it was a brilliant header from Chalobah. Don't take anything away from that. But someone's got to be dealing with that. Someone. And the second one is embarrassing. Højbjerg and Heung-min Son knocking into each other. No one reacting after the ball hits the bar. Well, this defending is literally schoolboy stuff that you won't even see in probably the sixth form playground. You know what I mean? It's absolutely embarrassing stuff, this kind of defending from set pieces. And
the first one, I think, if you actually look at it, it was smart play again from Cucurella. It's again in the dark arts, which we're not at the moment doing anything about. It's like we're letting teams perform these kind of little gamesmanship elements against us without us doing anything about it. I think it's Brennan Johnson is trying to run back on Chalobah. He's marking Chalobah, and Cucurella blocks him off, and that's why Chalobah's completely free at the back post, because Brennan Johnson would have gone to him and Cucurella blocks him. And he's not, because Cucurella's not in an offside position, and it's not really a foul. I don't think it's a clear foul anyway. That leaves Chalobah completely free, and it is a brilliant header. But again, these gamesmanship elements, a bit like Arsenal on Saturday, teams are looking at us as weak in these areas, and they're seeing that they can get us when they perform these little elements, the details. What Ange said that we're not quite tight on at the moment. These little details in the game, which are costing us. And again, that cost us yesterday. I thought the second goal was that was a serious joke, how that second goal went in. It's a good free kick from Palmer, don't get me wrong, but first of all, no one is challenging Jackson. And then Son and Højbjerg getting in each other's way when one of them could have easily cleared that off the line. It wasn't even a powerful header from Jackson. One of them could have got there, and they both get in each other's way. They both then leave it for each other and just allow it to go into the back of the net. Two experienced players to allow that situation, it's beyond laughable at that point. And we were actually on top of that point, and obviously that was against run of play. So that was really, really frustrating that goal goes in that moment. But all's well. Once it went 2-0, I was very frustrated with how we responded to that. We completely lost belief. We lost our way massively. And it's almost as if we were resigned to defeat as soon as that second goal went in.
Yeah. I mean, me in the away end, I absolutely had no hope. And what you're saying about this bit of gamesmanship and learning the dark arts, I was sitting right behind the goal that we were attacking in the second half, right? And every corner that we had, nobody went anywhere near Petrovic. Nobody went anywhere near to try put a bit of pressure on, learn from what we've been through ever since that Everton game where Vicario is coming under increasing pressure. Why aren't we trying that on the opposition keeper? Why aren't we trying to push our weight about and trying to put some pressure on the opposition from these set pieces? It just makes no sense whatsoever. And then when we were defending the set pieces when I was behind it, yeah, I think Porro was trying his best to protect Vicario at times, but I mean, I'm just lost at where this football team is at the moment. And don't get me wrong, I still back Ange 100%, but he's got to change things, and he's got to he's got to put some belief back into this team, because you saw a clear lack of belief and a lack of cohesion within this unit yesterday. The first half was pretty much a non-event from Tottenham. Did we even turn up to that first half? Like, what did we have? 3 shots, none on target. We didn't threaten whatsoever. Second half, we came out with a bit of impetus and a bit of threat, but still, we hardly even threatened them at all. Like, Brennan Johnson was getting the ball on the right, trying to take on his man, huffing and puffing, and then poor crosses in the box like we've seen time and time again.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Apart from those moments where we flashed the ball across the face of goal, what did we actually have in terms of actually hurting Chelsea? Very, very little. And for all the promising, we did some really good work, I think, pressing in the centre, winning the ball in some really good positions, and then we didn't create anything. Then nothing really came of it in terms of real clear-cut opportunities. Son wasn't getting in the right position. Son had a really poor game yesterday, yet again, in recent weeks. And it's as if, this is why I think Ange needs to change up this midfield completely. I think he needs to put another offensive player in there, just so we have another avenue of attack. Because at the moment, here's how I see it. We're completely open in the centre anyway. We put Sarr there, we put Bentancur there, we put Højbjerg there, we put Basuma there. We're open. We're open. We've all got all these players there. We're open anyway. We're getting destroyed. We're getting counter-attacked on. So from my perspective, if that's going to happen anyway, if we're going to be this open, if we're going to concede all these chances, might as well take a Sarr or a Bentancur out, put a Lo Celso or a Kulusevski next to a Maddison, and then when we're on the ball, at least we have the out-wide threat, and we're also going to have that central threat as well, where we can play around in the centre, try and break teams down, be a bit more nimble, and create more chances. Because at the moment, we don't have that threat. We're only going out wide, and when that's not working, as soon as we go inside, all they have to do is make sure that they don't give a Maddison or Kulusevski any time on the ball, and then bam, that threat is completely shut down and we're forced back out wide again. At least if we have a Kulusevski and a Maddison or a Lo Celso next to each other, that's another threat there. All of a sudden, they can't just concentrate on closing down one player. There's 2 players there who can pass and move and make things happen, and hopefully try and break down the opposition's back line. At the moment, the way we're going, it's just not working, especially away from home in recent weeks. It's way too easy to deal with from the opposition defence point of view. And the case in point, how many injuries did Chelsea have in their back line yesterday? Their senior centre-back was Badiashile, who's been their 4th choice centre-back for the whole season. He was their only senior centre-back yesterday, and they still found it easy to defend against us. Newcastle had a much changed back line, and they found it way too easy to deal with us and kept a clean sheet as well. Fulham, I know they're a good, they had a first choice back line there, but you know, they're a mid-table side and found it very easy to deal with our attacking force. We are way too easy to be dealt with, and that is the biggest concern for me right now.
But look, even in games that we've won this season, particularly at home, like the Brentford game, Crystal Palace game, and these kind of games, right? We've scored, we've created chances, but even the times that we've scored and created chances have just come in small spurts in certain moments of the game. I still think we look blunt in these kind of games when we're scoring goals. I think it's been a problem throughout this season after I think there was a bit of a period when we did have those injuries, the Aston Villa game, West Ham game, we created some chances, Man City away, we created chances. But ever since the turn of the year, we've been so poor at creating chances. And this has been a consistent theme, even when we have scored goals.
Well, if you look at the goals we've scored, it's all been the same. It's all been win the ball back quickly, get it out wide very quickly to the wide player. Wide player gets the ball very quickly across the face of goal, and either we get an own goal or a tap in at the back post or a cutback. It's the same thing every single time, and that's fine because we have scored a lot of goals like that. So that is something that we're clearly effective at. But you can't just have one string to your bow. Literally, even games you win, that's most of the time how we're getting the goals. A ball out wide quickly, a cut back across the face of goal, and bam, we get a tap in. And I'm not saying that's a bad way to score. If it works, it works. But as soon as that avenue is closed off to us, as soon as teams are clogging up the penalty area, making sure we're not getting those cutbacks quickly enough, as soon as they're doubling up on the wide areas, so they're making sure Brennan Johnson or Son can't get the advantage in the wide areas, it's like we're blunt. That's it. We're done. We can't seem to attack in any other way. And that is a really big concern for me. And that's why I'm calling on Ange to change up how we play in the centre, because it's just not working at all. If we were being a bit more solid defensively and not conceding the level of chances we are, I could say, okay, we're not creating the level of chances we are, but at least we're being a bit solid defensively. So it's that, you know, as long as we can start creating more chances, we'll be fine. But we're open anyway. So you might as well change it up.
Yeah.
And and people say, yeah, it's a rebuild, inconsistencies happen, all that kind of stuff, and that's completely true. I completely get it. I think that's right. When you're in a rebuild, you're going to go through tough times. You're going to go through times where things are inconsistent. Things don't inexplicably inconsistent as well. Things don't seem to be clicking, and you got to work through that. The problem is that it's the same problem for consistently for weeks now, and there doesn't seem to be.
So we are consistent.
Huh?
So we are consistent. We're consistently
definitely.
shit. That's what we're doing at the moment.
Definitely, especially since the Villa game, I would say there's been a big problem since the Villa game. We've completely dropped off, I would say, since that Villa game. We're like, at least before that Villa game, right? We weren't seeing these results like 3-0 Fulham, 4-0 Newcastle like yesterday, these kind of performances. Before the Villa game, yes, there were some stodgy performances, and there were performances where maybe we got lucky wins or whatever and stuff, but we weren't like this bad, I would say, in consistent games. But it seems like ever since that Fulham game, like we've completely lost our way, especially away from home, where we seem as though we've got no answer on the ball, and Ange said something quite worrying yesterday. He said we've, it seems as though we've lost our conviction and our courage to play our football.
Belief, he said.
Belief, that's it. Belief to play some of our football. That is a big concern, especially when we're near the end of the season, end of his first year's project. This is when you should this time of the season, right? Going into next season, you should be building momentum to go into next season to build on. You should be seeing things going in the right direction. You should be seeing the team starting to gel with signs that next season we're going to hit the ground running. That's not what we're seeing at the moment. Everyone points to, look at Arteta's first season, look at Klopp's first season, all that kind of stuff. Now, and I agree, they had their troubles, but if you look back at their first seasons, what they did do is they ended the season very well. They ended the seasons strongly with a view of next season hitting the ground running and starting really strong and pushing. And that's not what we're doing at the moment. We're limping to the end, and we're declining. We seem to be getting worse, and that is a big issue for me, because that shouldn't be the case. They're not the problem for me is they're not taking what Andrew's saying on board at the moment, and I'm not saying this is something fatal. I'm obviously giving it time, but I can't not say it's a concern, because it is a concern.
Yeah, and we've been making excuses all season as a fan base, haven't we? About the injuries, about this, about first season, about getting used to a new system, new manager, losing Harry Kane, more injuries, and where the excuses are wearing thin now. They really are wearing thin. Like, how many more excuses?
Since we've got players back.
Exactly. Like, how many more excuses can we sit here and give? I sat here and gave so many excuses after the North London derby. Refereeing decisions. We were the better team. Blah blah blah. But we've been consistently so poor for so long now. It is a massive cause for concern. It really is. I do back Ange to get it right, but I think he needs a whole heap of changes in the summer if he is going to get it right. Because these players. A lot of these players, particularly the midfield players and the attacking players, just seem like they've checked out. I mean, a lot of these players, like I said, Bissouma, Maddison. When's the last time these kind of players actually played consistently well?
Yeah,
10 games, the first 10 games of the season.
In terms
we're
of
a long way away from the 10 games of the season now. We're in the last few games of the season, and we're trying to sit here and say these guys are the future of the project. Bissouma has been at Spurs now nearly 2 seasons. He's put a string of performances of about 7-8 games where he's played well in a Spurs shirt. How is that anywhere near good enough? How is he supposed to be that monster number 6 to spur us on to the next level?
The problem I got is, at the moment we can all talk about Ange doesn't have his players and all that kind of stuff, but if you look at the squad, like, who is realistically not going to be here next season out of these players? Højbjerg, yeah, probably him. Richarlison, I guess, maybe there's a question mark on him, but he's more likely to be here than not. In midfield, who's not going to be here? Who is playing? Apart from Højbjerg, maybe Lo Celso, but he's not even playing anyway. In the back, who's not going to be here? Emerson, but he's not even playing at the moment. So all these players who played, if you look at the starting 11 yesterday, they're all probably going to be here next season, aren't they?
Well,
apart from Richarlison.
Yeah. I mean,
who isn't? Who are we going to sell?
Hopefully, I mean,
who are we going to sell?
I mean, there's a case for Kulusevski, there's a case for Bissouma, there's
But
a
who are
case.
we actually going to sell?
I don't know. I don't know what Ange is thinking in terms of the summer plans, but I don't see why these players can put in consistently performance like this and keep their place in the team and keep their place in the squad. At the moment, these players are stealing a living. They lack fight. They are lacking fight consistently. You go at home to Arsenal, away to Chelsea. How can you lack fight in these kind of games on a consistent basis? Kulusevski, right? Kulusevski is a top player with top abilities, but he does not show that. Since the first 6 months that he was here under Conte, where he was unbelievable, goal contribution after goal contribution. Last season he was poor. This season he's played well in spurts, but still nowhere near to the level that we saw in the first 6 months of Antonio Conte. So many of these players are consistently underperforming, and they need to know that, and they need to come out of the team. They need to potentially even be sold. Like, you're looking at all these players performing at under 21 level. Mikey Moore on the bench yesterday, which was unbelievable for him. I mean, these players need to be struck at the heart, and I would play these players ahead of these underperforming players from now until the end of the season, just to show, like, look, you're not safe here. Why should you be safe here if you're going to keep putting in performances like that? They need to take a long, hard look at themselves. And yeah, I agree, Ange has got his own faults, and Ange needs to improve, and maybe he needs to tweak a few things and change things as well. But these players are not showing any sort of fight, and that is the thing that hurts me the most.
Yeah, and that's also something that I'm very, very disturbed by, because especially in these away games when you need to really be resolute, be strong, they seem to be wilting, especially in recent weeks, completely wilting and giving up way too easy and making it easy for the opposition. And it doesn't matter how many injuries the opposition have, we're the ones who look like we're decimated at the moment with how we're playing, and that's the biggest concern. But what I'm saying is, I'm looking at this team, and Andrew's going to have to deal with a lot of these players next season. I don't think they're all bad players as well. So what is, are the players the problem, like, at the moment? Because a lot of them are, I believe anyway, I don't believe there's going to be a major overhaul in the summer. I do think we're going to sell quite a few. There's going to be a lot of squad players who are going. But in terms of that 11 yesterday, how many of them are actually going to be sold? How many of them are actually not going to be here? I think the vast majority, or most, there's a case for all, are going to be here next season. So if we're putting in performances like that, and these are the kind of players who are going to be available to us, plus some additions, then where is the changes coming from?
Well, maybe that's our problem then. The problem is that we do need an overhaul that's not going to come.
But who? But who needs selling?
I'll go through the squad over yesterday in terms of every single player who I don't mind selling. You look at the bench yesterday, Ollie Skip, don't mind selling. Dragusin's just come. Giovanni Lo Celso, he's probably going to be gone. Emerson Royale, he can go. Brian Hill, he can go. Brennan Johnson has just come this season, so I'll give him a pass. Madison's just come. Pape Matar, he can stay. Bentancur can stay. Richarlison, I don't mind if he goes. Højbjerg's probably going to go. Bissouma, at this point, I probably don't mind if he goes either. Dejan Kulusevski, I don't mind if he goes at this point. So, I mean, that's a lot of players I'm talking about.
Yeah, but who's actually going to go?
That's the issue, though. Like, at Pochettino, at the end of his first season, he was granted the opportunity to get rid of a whole heap of players.
Yeah, but old players who've been here a while, who weren't going to cut the mustard. Kulusevski's young, Bissouma's,
But they're underperforming consistently. How can you keep players that keep underperforming under various different managers?
Depends what Ange thinks. But what I'm saying, but which of these players aren't good enough? Like, which of these players are gonna, like, will Ange cast aside and say he needs to be going if we're gonna improve? I'm not talking about players who I'm not talking about players who are inconsistent or players who aren't performing at the moment. I'm talking about players who can't play his system. Which one? Where are they? Do we have a squad full of players who can't play his system?
I think we've got a lot of players that can't play us. Well, I don't know about can't play a system, because we saw them play the system to a certain extent. Kulusevski is a certain example where some games he looks really good, some games he's just completely... He is the most inconsistent and frustrating player, because I know how much talent this boy has. He's got so much talent, but he just doesn't play well consistently. Bissouma is another one. I think he can fit the system, but his head's just completely gone, and it's been completely gone since the first 10 games of the season. Like, how long are you supposed to give these players? How long are you supposed to give them?
I don't know.
Kulusevski's been here, what, 2.5 seasons now?
Yeah.
And he's had, on a consistent basis, consistently playing well, probably 6 months and at the start. That's how long he's consistently had good performance for. Bissouma as well, like I said, first 10 games of the season. Apart from that, 2 years of dross.
So are we saying we sell them and we're going to criticise Ange if they don't sell them? Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying you either criticise Ange for don't selling them or criticise Ange. Well, I don't know what I'm saying at the moment. So I think everyone needs to take a slice of the blame here. Ange has got to take a slice of the blame. These players have got to take a slice of the blame. If these players stay, they have to step up. If they don't step up, we need to get rid of sooner rather than later.
So you're saying we need to get rid of them?
I don't know right now if we need to get rid of them. I don't know where Ange's head is at. I'm happy to follow Ange in terms of what he thinks about these players. But from my perspective, what I see from these players right now, I wouldn't mind if I see Bissouma, Kulusevski and Richarlison go in the summer.
But this is I'm just saying, this is the concerning thing. I think they're all going to be here. So...
But in your mind, do you mind that they're here next season? Do you want them to be here next season?
I don't mind if they're here. But I think
if they're not consistently playing well, then how can you say, like, I'm happy for them to be here?
Because I believe they can. I believe they can.
But when is this going to happen? When is this going to come? When is this going to come?
Once we're a consistent team. Once we're a team which, has Andrew's been here for a bit longer. Once we're more in the system.
But they seem to be getting worse.
I know. That's why I'm concerned. That's why I'm concerned with the manager at the moment. Because the more time he's had at the moment,
the worse they get.
Especially recently, the more time the players have had back from injury, the worse we're getting. And we've seen that they can do it earlier in the season and even in other games as well, inconsistently, where they can do it. But then recently, ever since that Villa game, it's almost as if we thought, top four's wrapped up now, and we just let our guard down, and we've had a massive drop-off since that Villa game. Like, really big drop off the performance levels.
But I think it's even been happening before the Villa game. Like, yeah, we won 4-0 against Villa, brilliant performance. But away from home, right, hand on heart, since the first 4 away games of the season, how many have we actually played well in? We've won 2 of them since the first 4 away games of the season.
There's playing well, and there's playing like we played against Newcastle, Fulham, and Chelsea. We haven't been like that.
Yeah, true.
That's new. That is. Apart from maybe the Brighton game, this is like a different level of shite which we've seen. Yes, there's been games where we haven't played that well.
It's true.
And we've been inconsistent, but we haven't been this bad. And all of a sudden, there's been a complete... It's like, even the games we haven't played well, at least we showed a bit of fight. We got back in the game. We didn't let the game get away from us. We grabbed draws, whatever. We only lost by the odd goal. And now we're getting battered. Now it's easy for the opposition. And now it's like with loads of chances, we can't concede, we can't even create a chance. And it's really concerning. It's really concerning going into next season, whether I'm convinced we're 100% going to turn this around. Obviously, we need signings. We all know that. We need big improvements in the front line. And I still believe that when Ange gets a lot more of his players upgrade in a lot of different positions, gets a deeper squad, all that kind of stuff, I'm sure we can do good. But like, it's a big problem. There's a big problem for me about what the actual problem is right now, because we've got good players. They're back from injury, been back from injury for a while. We saw how they can perform early in the season. And yet it seems as though the longer we've had with them, especially since March time, like, we're getting worse and worse and worse. And the players seem to be less receptive at the moment to what Ange is saying. And that is a big red flag for me.
Maybe it's just this same common theme of the mentality at this football club that has been here for way too long. As soon as any sign of trouble comes, down tools. That's what happens. Here. But I'm saying that maybe there's a lot of new players, but the underlying mentality of the club stays the same.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, how do you quantify that? How do you...
Because the same thing keeps happening year after year, manager after manager. Start well, as soon as the problems come, you see this whole heap of shit every single time. It happens under every single manager.
So who's to blame for that? The hierarchy?
Well, the hierarchy, you know my thoughts on the hierarchy. The hierarchy are always to blame, in my opinion. Ange keeps going on about fighting for the title next year. How deluded can you be to say this team and this squad are going to fight for the title next year? We need so much to be anywhere near close to the levels of Arsenal, Man City, and even Liverpool. We need so much. and we need to spend probably about 300-400 million in the summer if that's going to be the case. Like, who thinks we? I mean, I was saying it first half of the season. I was trying to kid myself maybe a bit of the second half of the season, but I'm looking at it as like, how is this team ever going to be up there next season? We're not. We're talking about progression from last season. We're still stuck on the same points as we were on at the end of last season. What are we going to finish on this year? 66, which is what, six points above what we finished on last season. We equaled our points tally from last season like 5-6 weeks ago.
3 games ago.
3 games ago, but that was like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Like, yes, we've progressed in a certain sense, but I don't think we've progressed that much from last season.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of how we play, up until 3 weeks ago, I would have said we have. But then recently, I wouldn't. These are definitely up there with some of our worst performances from last season, 100%. These performances I'm seeing in recent weeks are 100% up there with the low points under Stellini and whatever and Mason at the back end of last season, when we completely just down tools, gave up, couldn't give a crap, basically.
Exactly.
Some of these performances are up there with that.
Exactly.
Sure.
And I'm seeing those same kind of traits in the players, and a lot of the players need to take a long, hard look at themselves. And that's why I would say, just to give them a kick up the arse, why not play some of a Mikey Moore or a Jamie Donnelly or a Iago Santiago? We got nothing to play for anyway. So give them a kick up the arse, show them that you're not safe here, and show them we've got players that are willing to put in 100% for the badge. Because, yeah, they might not be good enough, these players, which is fair enough, but at least they'll put heart and passion into it. Because these players are not putting heart and passion into it at the moment. And that is the bare minimum that you should be doing. Not even just playing, yes, playing an everyday game for Spurs, but a game against Arsenal and a game against Chelsea, and the worst Chelsea team, where you should have smelt blood and you should have gone over to Stamford Bridge believing that you can win and go and win that game. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the bare minimum that all I ask for from these Spurs players.
I'm all for it. Put Donnelly in, put Santiago in. Why not? Can't get any worse than what we've seen recently away from home. That's for sure.
And it's just like, you need to see something to cling on to. You need to. And we're just not seeing anything to cling on to at the moment. And it's really hard to take, to be honest. But, yeah, how much longer can we rant about this?
How much longer you got? Probably a long time. But, yeah, it's concerning at the moment. It is concerning. As much as I believe in the project, believe in Ange, and I don't think either of us here are here sitting saying Ange out.
No,
sure.
I think we've both said Ange in.
Yeah, like, we definitely believe Ange needs time. I completely get that, but we shouldn't be. I don't think we should be sitting here at the end of the first year of the season. It's getting worse at the end of the season. It should be going on an upward trajectory at this point. And I get what I think it was Charlie Eccleshare said. Oh, Spurs had a great first 10 games and blah, blah. And let's say we switched it around and we had a great last 10 games and a bad first 10 games. People would be saying different things. But that would be a different scenario.
It would be a massively different scenario.
Because, first 10 games, you can say, oh, we're a new entity. People
manager bounce.
Manager bounce. People don't know what to expect from us. The longer you have with your players, you should be improving. The later on in the season, you should be getting things together. Players should be more receptive to what you're saying on the training ground. You should be picking up on those ideas, and you should be getting things together. You shouldn't be falling apart. You shouldn't be regressing near the end of the season, and that's the bit of concern I've got. But look, we've still got 4 games. We'll have to see what we can show in these 4 games.
Absolutely, and let's hope we don't show anything good in the Man City game. To be fair,
apart from the Man City game, we can't be showing anything in that one.
But if these traits from these players carry on into next season, Ange won't last. Ange won't last till Christmas. He'll be gone by then. And that's the truth of the matter. And this is the same thing that's plagued every single manager at Tottenham. It happened to Conte. It happened to Mourinho.
Let's be honest. These similar things have happened under Conte and Mourinho. Great start.
That's what I said.
Yeah. And then everything seeps back in. But it's difficult it's like, when you keep changing the players, then you're blaming certain players. I don't know. It's hard to finger point at certain players when there's been so much change, but the same thing keeps happening. I understand that, but yeah, it's. That has been happening with every single manager, apart from Poch. Really, he's the only one it didn't happen with. At least he was able to sustain it for a few years. So,
Even Poch, though, like the players started complaining, oh, the training method this,
Yeah, but that's
that.
5 years into that's different. You know, it's 5 years, not
Yeah,
2.
but if anyone deserved the respect for the players to keep going and keep fighting for, and after, 3 months after being in a Champions League final, if anyone deserved that respect, it was Pochettino. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a mentality, no matter what players come in, it's a mentality that has seeped through this football club since then. And I don't know the answer. I really don't.
Let's just hope we show a bit more.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, everyone needs to pick themselves up and do better. Ange needs to do better. The players need to do better. And I think that's just where we're at the moment. And it's a hard one to take after such a strong start to the season and just seeing Spurs slowly regress throughout the season, going from creating one of the most chances in the league to creating to little, next to nothing in each game.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality. But look, that's your match review and / rant on where Tottenham are at the moment.